Hello and welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us again today. We are very excited, as we always are, about today's show and our guest that we have waiting in the wings. Um, so we'll get to him in just a couple minutes. Sandy, you're here with me again as usual. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pumped up and excited for the new show, and looking forward to learning and growing some more as we get through another show here.
Everyone should go over to our website, breakthroughrei.podcast.ca. There they can download any of our past shows that we've done over the last years and years, and listen to all the exciting information that our guests have provided over in that time. So please do go over breakthroughrei.podcast.ca. There you can get our free gift as well.
You can get a free gift, the ultimate strategy for building wealth through real estate. When you do that, you'll also get on our list, so you never miss a show. You will get updates as we go along with things going on in our life and businesses and all sorts of fun stuff. So go pick that up too. And so you never miss out.
There's a little glitchy on my side, but I think Sandy was just about to say that everyone should also leave us a rating and review on iTunes. Isn't that right?
Of course. Rating and review. If you're watching live, we are hosting these live. If you're able to tune in live and chat with us, ask us some questions. That's a great way to tune in as well. Facebook or YouTube. You can also, of course, leave us a review on iTunes, where we've got tons of great reviews, tons of action there, and 7+ years of episodes that you can go binge on and enjoy. So we always appreciate feedback and reviews on there. If you have thoughts for the show, you want to see a specific type of guest or specific category or topic, we're always reading through those and doing our best to bring on experts in those fields. So leave us some info there, some reviews. We'd love to see that. It helps us get the show out to more Canadians across the country.
And we'll talk about it a little bit more on the next episode once I'm fully set up here. But I'm just about ready to start helping people collect some properties here in Costa Rica as well. So anyone listening, give me a call, reach out. We've got plenty of exciting income properties all over this area in Guanacaste, and I'd be more than happy to share some of the opportunities with you guys. So reach out and we'll start a conversation about your next, vacation home.
Awesome. That's exciting too. People that have been following for the last few months have got to join in on some of your experience there with that. So that's exciting. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. We'll talk about that on the next show once I'm fully set up here. We got the closing. Actually, I'll share a little bit. So it is difficult to move money around if you're not actually in Canada. Like for me to move my money around and get it where it's supposed to be is kind of difficult. So our closing actually was supposed to happen today, and it's got pushed off for a couple days just because of the money situation, not being able to do a wire transfer from here. So things have been complicated a little bit more. I'm just happy that there wasn't a closing on the other side that was reliant on us closing on the house today. So we're lucky in that way. But so that's a little bit disappointing, and I've got to get on the phone right after we're done here and make sure that things are still moving in the right direction as far as that all goes, and hopefully we'll have that place in our possession on the next time that we talk.
Amazing. Looking forward to learning more about that and hearing about it. It's exciting.
Mm-hmm. And I guess before we get started, we should ask what's up with you? What's new with you?
There's not that much on my side. Nothing that exciting, at least, since we last spoke. Honestly, not that much. I got a couple things in the works that we'll maybe be able to disclose some more about in the next episode or two. But right now, just working on a few renovation projects that we've had for a bit. Dealing with some tenant issues. nothing really beyond the normal challenges that stuff brings.
How's the new brokerage going?
New brokerage is amazing. We're 7 months almost in, 6.5, 7 months. So it's been a good journey. It's been a few ups and downs getting things off the ground. However, for where we're at, I think we're doing really well. We got 70 I think we're going to hit over 70 agents now this month. And, that's been exciting, of course, just growing that. We've got great people in place to help us do it. So yeah, even despite all the different challenges with COVID and everything, we've done good. We're about to do some in-person things in the next months, which is really exciting because we've never done any in-person events or trainings or anything like that.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty much every time pretty much every day you guys are announcing a new agent joining you guys. So,
well, there's only 60,000 of them or something to find in Toronto. So there's lots of opportunities there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But if anyone wants to learn more about that, definitely reach out. We can chat about that. If anyone wants to become an agent or is thinking about that type of career, there's some opportunities. Both you and I could help out with that in different ways. So definitely reach out to us about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Enough about us, though, right?
I know we've got a great guest standing by. We're pumped up to learn more about, and why don't we bring him in?
Yeah, sounds good. Absolutely. Shawn, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Shawn Rea is here.
Hey guys, very excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me on the show.
Absolutely, and you're an active investor, an agent with a firm focus on the power to believe and achieve, and you attribute all your success to a switch in mindsets to unlock the ability to keep moving forward. And you're specializing in helping real estate investors, of course, looking for multifamily and flip properties all across Niagara region and Southern Ontario. And you're here with us to discuss, all sorts of stuff around that, but also family mindset, struggle, and overcoming obstacles, which we're excited to learn more about what that mindset looks like, and then how you've been able to feed off that and achieve some great things. So welcome to the show, Shawn.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Thanks, Rob, for having me. And I'm excited to share my story. My story started not that long ago, to be honest. Like, a lot of people think that getting into real estate investing, you need to be in it for years and years, and it takes a long time to become successful and to build a portfolio. But that's not exactly the truth. And there's lots of good examples in Ontario here with investors that have done that in a short amount of time.
Yeah. So, again, thanks for being here. And so let's talk specifically about you, though. We're not here to talk about those other guys that have done it. Let's hear your story. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your family. Let's start out that way.
Yeah. So, I'm a father of three. So I have three daughters, married to my wife. We've been together for like 14 years now. I have a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 9-month-old. And before, going back into why I got into real estate investing, it was because I was struggling financially. So I didn't have the financial means to really support my first daughter when we had her. And I found out that, working as an IT guy, working my way up the corporate ladder, I was 25 years old, turning 26, and I was buying my first house, and I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I was doing that 9-to-5 grind. So I was commuting back and forth to Mississauga every single day. It was like 1 hour there, 1 hour back. Sometimes with traffic, could have been longer. And I was supposed to work 40 hours a week, but I was working 50-hour weeks, 55-hour weeks. And I was still struggling paycheck to paycheck, not able to save money. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to right now, is working in that corporate grind and not being able to get ahead. And then wondering, like, how is it that other people are able to buy multiple properties in this current market? The way that our economy is, real estate is super expensive. How are people actually able to do this? And I didn't know the answer to that when I was 25. And that's basically where my journey started. And I started educating myself on real estate investing.
Cool. And you've been all around Niagara region the whole time?
So I grew up in Hamilton originally. I was born and raised in Hamilton. I lived there until I was 25, and I purchased my first property, not a rental property or a real estate investment. I purchased my first home that I moved into. And it was a new build out in Stony Creek. I bought it when I was 25. I think it was done being built when I was 27. We moved into it, and that's basically where I realized that I was completely house poor and I was broke. And I needed to fix something, right? Because I was like, I just had my first daughter. So we just moved in, new baby. I had like 2 car leases. I was leasing a car. My wife was leasing a car. I was working this corporate job I was trying to work my way up the ladder, trying to get, salary increase, whatnot. And at the end of the day, every 2 weeks, all the money goes out, pay my mortgage, pay my bills, pay my car leases, take the wife out to a steak dinner, buy the baby diapers, and I'm broke again. And I got to repeat and do it. And I came across the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Lots of people can relate to that. I read Robert Kiyosaki's book and learned about the cash flow quadrant. And then I read the cash flow quadrant, and then I started reading some other books. And that's where I started realizing I need to focus on assets, and that the house that I thought was an asset, because all of my friends and family and everybody else owned one home, and they said, hey, you should buy a house. It's going to be the best investment that you ever make. I realized that through reading those books, that my house wasn't necessarily an asset, because it wasn't actually putting money in my pocket. It was actually costing me a lot of money every single month. And it was basically my biggest expense. And so I switched my focus to, how can I buy an asset that's going to put money in my pocket? And at that point, I had the discussion with my wife, and I said, would you be willing to sell our brand new house that we just, customized, new flooring, like with the flooring, the cabinets, and all of our appliances, to like an older duplex that we're going to house hack? And she actually agreed. And we ended up moving into the Niagara region. Within 12 months, we sold that house, and we used the funds from that house to buy our first house hack, which was a duplex. I lived upstairs and we rented out the downstairs. And that's where the whole journey started, where I said, okay, I'm going to put together a plan of buying more than one property. So this was going to be my first property. And I put together a plan of like 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, and a 10-year plan, and how I'm going to scale my portfolio essentially.
Amazing. And there must have been some good convincing on your half, I guess, to get the other half in on that, because I've had some challenges with that at times too, with spouses, with friends, or whatever. It's always a little challenging if they're not maybe she is, but it's hard to get them on the same wavelength, the same mindset, if they haven't done some of the stuff you've done. Like,
if they're not reading all the same books and following along and learning exactly like you are, it is kind of hard to say, you see this great house that we have here, let's just sell it and we'll live in an older house with people underneath. How about that?
And we had a baby.
Right. So, yeah.
And so that was super foreign to us, because we were going to live with strangers in a house, and we had a new baby. And I got to tell you, she was the only one that supported me. She was the only one who said it's a good idea. Everyone else, like my friends, my family, everyone said, Shawn, you're crazy. I can't believe you're about to do this.
Well, it's a little short-term kind of sacrifice, right, to achieve something bigger in the long term. And then how did that parlay into the rest of your investment journey from that point forward?
I can give you the really short-winded story, or a little bit more detail. I don't know which ones you guys prefer, but
we've got some time. Let's hit a few details. Yeah.
Okay, so I bought that one it would have been like 2013, 2014. So we're going back 7 years. That was my first duplex 7 years ago, and I house hacked it. And my plan was to buy a second property within 3 years. So I wanted to save up enough money, and again, I didn't have any money saved. I didn't have family that had money. I really had no money, and I used 100% of my money to buy this house hack. So I had to start from scratch. I didn't understand refinancing. I didn't understand vendor takebacks. I didn't understand private lending. I knew nothing about any of those things. So in my mind at that time, I had to go and I had to work really hard to save enough money to buy another house. I had to build up enough money to have the down payment. So I put together a 3-year plan to buy my second property. So I was thinking by 2017, I'm going to buy the next one. And fast forward 3 years. So 3 years went by. I still worked the same IT job. I was working the corporate job. I was trying to save money. But what ended up happening is, with the money that we offset from the rental income coming from downstairs, we just ended up spending it, because I hadn't changed my financial aptitude. I hadn't changed the way I looked at money. So I started saving that extra $1,000 a month because I wasn't paying that mortgage, but I wasn't actually saving it. I was just spending it. And three years went by and we still had no money saved. And I looked at this whiteboard that I had written. It was actually a piece of paper that I wrote down on a journal. And I opened it and I'm like, man, 3 years have gone by. I don't have any money saved to buy this second, property. What am I going to do? And so talk with my wife. And I said, I'm going to have to get another job, on top of my corporate job. And so I went and I got a job at a sushi restaurant, and I was working my 9 to 5. I went to the sushi restaurant after work, and I'd work there until 11 o'clock. And I was saving some money. And then I realized I'm not saving money fast enough after I did this for 2 months. So I went and I got a taxi job in the evenings after the sushi restaurant. So I was working my corporate job, then I'd work at the sushi restaurant, then I'd drive a taxi until 3 a.m. and then I'd go back to the corporate job at 8 a.m. And I did this for about 11 months, and I was able to save up the $18,000 or $20,000 that I needed to buy my second rental that I was going to move into. I was going to house hack it again. So it was a 5% down property. And that's what I did. And so I kept the first property in Welland, and I went and I moved into a property in Fort Erie, and we bought a triplex at that time, and we house hacked it. And that was in 2016, end of 2016, start of 2017. So that's where everything changed for me, because I realized that going from that one property where we just had the bottom rented out to then moving into a triplex, I went from one rental per unit to 4 rental incomes coming in now, right? And that changed everything for me, because I started making like all this extra income that I didn't have from rentals, and it was almost the same amount as my salary. And I was like, I can't believe I just did this with one move. I bought a second rental. So that's where I dialed in, and I really focused on educating myself. I started reading like every single book that I could possibly find on mindset, on networking, on working with other people, just becoming a better version of myself. And I started building out my network at that point. I started connecting with mortgage brokers and people who could assist me. And at that point, I connected with my mortgage broker within about 8 months of me buying the triplex. And he told me, Shawn, we can refinance your first property. We can leverage that equity and purchase a third one. And then we can start scaling your portfolio. And in 2018, I learned about the BREI strategy, and I implemented my first BREI project, and I bought a duplex, and I did the BREI strategy and executed it in 40 days and had all my money back. And that just motivated me even more. And after that third property in 2018, I bought five or six in 2019 and did the BREI strategy on every single one of them. And I continued that into 2020 and into this year as well.
Nice. And
sorry, I'm on mute. That's amazing. That's a good story. I love that. You know what I find impressive and just like so foreign to me is not like working a large amount of hours, but just having that support, honestly, to go out or I don't even know how you can do it. Go work at a restaurant and then go drive a cab until 3 a.m. Then what? Get home, sleep for what? 2 hours, and then get up and go back to work.
Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 hours, something like that. Yeah.
That is absolutely insane. But I guess, man, that's eye of the tiger right there.
Well, you knew what you were doing it for, right? You had a big passion or drive behind it, a big why.
It was very, very focused, and going back to the why, like why all of a sudden, right? Because you think like, hey, I'm 26, 27 years old. At that time, I was now 29 years old, and I never had that drive. So that's the whole thing, is we go back to and we ask ourselves, like, what happens in our lives where all of a sudden we just become more motivated, right? What is that switch that like triggers you to say, hey, I've been sitting back and doing nothing for months or years, and now all of a sudden you see somebody just excel and they go past all of their peers and they have ambitions and they're hustling and they're motivated. And for me, that would have been my child, because when I was 26, turning 27, and I had my first daughter, I realized that I wasn't going to be able to give her the life that I would have wanted with financially, because I was living paycheck to paycheck. And I knew that if I was living paycheck to paycheck now, it wasn't going to get better unless I changed something. I needed to change something so that financially, as my child grew up, I could afford to give her a better lifestyle. And going back to that, that's the motivator. That was the why of what pushed me and started driving me to, hey, I'm going to work 2 jobs. I'm going to work 3 jobs. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be able to buy these rental properties, because I know that buying them will change my life.
Always on mute. It's changed your life in other ways too, though, right? Like we were talking just before the show, and I've seen all your posts. You just got back from a pretty extended stay in Belize, right?
Yeah, I did. So this goes back again to, it was educating myself on what is it that I want to do with my life that's going to make me happy and it's going to make my family happy, and how do I achieve those things? And the answer that goes back to how do you achieve any goal that you want in life? And that's by taking actionable steps. And so one of the first actionable steps that I do with anything that I want to accomplish is I write it down. And I'll write it down. I have a, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I have a whiteboard right there. So that whiteboard is basically my annual list. It's my checklist of things that I need to accomplish this year. So I wrote that in January of 2021, and I wrote all of the things down. And one of the items, there's 25 items on there, but one item on that list is to take a 3-month vacation in the Caribbean. And I had to figure out how to do it. So I started that process in January of figuring out how can I take 3 months off while I'm property managing like 90% of my units or 85% of my units. I still manage them myself. So how can I figure out how to actually take a 3-month vacation while still having all of these rental units that I need to manage? And so it took me 3 or 4 months to figure out that process and have a system in place where I could actually leave and I didn't have to deal with the tenant issues. And I was able to set that up and implement it and take that vacation. And I was gone and I came back and everything's still standing.
Well, let's dig into that a little bit more now too, because it leads right into the next question. So and that'll be one of them, but I'm sure there's others. What roadblocks have you encountered along the way here, and how did you overcome them? Just pushing through and getting that money saved for the one, that's a huge roadblock that most people would think was too big. I'm pretty sure a lot of people don't want to take that kind of action to get where they want to go. But what are some of the other ones?
Yeah, so I would say that the next roadblock or hurdle that I came across going back into after I had moved into the second rental property, I was working on the BREI project on the third one. I executed it, but during that project, one of the hurdles that I would say that was the hardest hurdle to overcome was taking 100% of the money that I had, including, a line of credit that I had to borrow, and never having had that much money in my life and putting it all into one rental property. For me, that was the scariest thing that I'd ever done in my life, because if I failed, I was broke and I was probably in a worse off situation than when I started. And so for me, that was a huge mental hurdle that I had to get over. And the way that I was able to overcome it was honestly by talking to other real estate investors who were in my market and who were doing it, because they gave me that motivation and the confidence to continue going and made me believe in myself that I was actually going to be able to do this and that I wasn't going to fail and that they had just successfully completed it. So if they can do it, then I can do it. That was probably the next biggest hurdle that I overcame. And I continued using that support system of, my peers and other people that are in the real estate community to help me overcome any of those other fears that I had going and scaling up. Like, that was a duplex, but then when I bought my first 4-plex, I had the same fear because it was a bigger down payment. And then when I bought my first 8-plex, same problem. I had that fear of, oh my God, this is the biggest down payment I've ever had to put on a property. But I just pushed through because I know other people that are doing it and they're coming out on the other side okay.
Yeah, that's like the people around you are huge in those moments, right? Because it's, first of all, you're going to usually grow into whoever the top people that you hang around with are. But in those moments when you're scared, like the scariest thing you've ever done,
yeah,
you need people around you. It's I guess some people can overcome it, but you're going to have a lot of naysayers around you. That goes without saying. So you need to have that core group of at least a few people that are really going to say, I've done it before. It's not nothing big, man. Just do it.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's the thing is, once you have done it once, so like once I bought that first duplex and I did the BREI project, that fear was gone. I wasn't scared to do it again. And then the same thing with the 4-plex. The first one we bought, it was scary. And then the second one, I'm like, I've already done this. It's a piece of cake.
What other roadblocks? Anything else that's come up over the years that's been like a big one that kind of either set you back or could have set you back a lot?
Yeah, I would say it comes down to like limiting beliefs and mindset. But one of the roadblocks or hurdles that that I think a lot of people relate to is the fear of investing outside of their own neighborhood. So a lot of people will focus just on their city, their town, their neighborhood, and they'll say, I don't want a house that's further, like more than 15 minutes away from me, because I want to be able to see it, to manage it. I want to be able to get there quickly. I don't want to have to drive hours and hours to get there. And I had that same belief system where I needed to have everything close by. And I did buy the first 10 properties in my neighborhood within 15 minutes. And after 2 years went by and I had these properties, I had some opportunities that came up that were still in Ontario, but maybe they were like 4 or 5 hours away, somewhere where I wouldn't be able to just drive over. And the first property that I bought was in Sarnia, Ontario. That was farther away. And we've owned that property for about 1.5 years. I've never been to it. And we have no problems with the property. It's under property management. And I would say it's probably the easiest property that I've ever owned. And so getting over that hurdle was probably, it was scary to give up that control of, not being able to control every single aspect of the rental property and to be there whenever, something came up. But once I did it, that hurdle that I overcame allowed me to go and start investing in like New Brunswick, where I have never been. And I've purchased property there and I've never seen it personally, and it's went very well. And then that also goes into, well, why did I invest internationally? Because of that first obstacle that I came over. I got over investing out of my neighborhood and I invested 4 hours away, and then I invested across the country. And then because I was able to do that, that allowed me to invest internationally.
Awesome. And so now you mentioned Sarnia, so that's what, 5 hour drive, 4 hour drive, yes, maybe from where you are. You got Newfoundland, which you're not going to drive to probably anytime soon. And is that St. John's, Newfoundland? Or is
New Brunswick,
Moncton.
Sorry. We invested in Moncton, New Brunswick. Yeah, we bought a fourplex there in January of this year.
And the international limit, is that the US or is that here? Where is that?
In Belize now, in the Caribbean.
Perfect. I was hoping that was the answer. That's exciting. Sweet. So yeah, internationally now. So you got some. A lot of that has happened in how long? In the last 5 or less years, right?
So my first BREI project was in 2018. So we're 3.5 years as a real estate investor.
And have you done BREIs in Moncton and in these areas too that you're removed from, like you're not physically there, or have they been more turnkey?
They're like slow projects. So most of them were like the one in Sarnia was fully tenanted. We didn't try to do cash or keys. It was already cash flowing pretty well. I think we bought it. It was eight townhomes, and we bought it at a 7 cap. So didn't really have to do anything. I just spoke with property management there this morning because there was a unit that was turning over, and I was asking if she had re-rented it, and so that one's going to get boosted up in rent. I think most of them were paying like $750, market rent's like $1,250. So we should get a boost of $500 times 8 across the board.
Awesome.
And
yeah, if you're buying that 7 cap, that's okay to start with anyways. Yeah. So we did really good on that one. That was a COVID special. We bought it in March of 2020. So right when everybody was scared during the very first lockdown, that's when we bought that one. Was the news already out? Kind of that COVID was happening, and
we had to wear masks.
How did you overcome that? Because that was a tough point to take action. Like when we're talking about taking action, and there was a lot of people that would have told you, just play it cool here. We got to be careful right now. But I'm guessing you're going to look back on that and think that was thank goodness you took action, because it's probably gone up like crazy at this point.
Yeah. We paid $800,000 for 8 townhomes. I think that, what's the saying? There's the risk favors the brave or something like that. Or something, there's a saying rewards the brave. But yeah, that was a little bit it was scary. It was a little bit ballsy to do it. But the numbers made sense. And when you go back to the fundamentals of real estate investing, do the numbers make sense? Does the property cash flow right now as is? Do I need to forcefully do a BREI project, do cash for keys? And do I need to have 3 things happen correctly just for this property to turn out the way that I want, right? And if the answer to that is yes, then that's a lot riskier than going into a property knowing that it cash flows as is and you don't need to do anything for it to cash flow. And the likelihood that your rents, when they're already very low, would go lower is very unlikely. It was a very low risk investment in my perspective. But that was only because we've already done so many purchases prior to going into that we were confident enough in knowing the numbers. And when we know if the numbers work, they're not going to change.
So tell us about your Belize property.
Yeah, so that started we're 2021. That started January of 2020 as well. So kind of it's all kind of linked together of where you see that like mindset shift of, I started getting over some of the fear that I had of real estate investing. So that was just right around when we purchased Sarnia. And what ended up happening was I was on a trip to Cuba in December with a friend, and we're laying on the beach, and I've always wanted to own property like by the beach in the Caribbean. That's a dream. Every time you go to Mexico, you go anywhere, you're just like, man, how can I own property here? I want to live down here. I want to have a vacation home here, right? And that's, you're sitting with your friends on the beach, having beers, having drinks, mojitos, and that conversation always comes up. And we were having that conversation. And while we're in Cuba, I went online and I started looking at places where we can invest and buy, because we can't in Cuba. As a Canadian, you can't just go and buy property in Cuba. So I started looking around and I came across Belize, and I had already learned about Belize, and I had come across some listings, in the prior years before that. But I did my research and I realized that as a Canadian citizen, you can legally buy property, any real estate in Belize, and own it with fee simple title, because it's British common law. So it used to be called British Honduras. They speak so many benefits to investing in Belize. But once I came across it and I did my research, I was like, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to buy something in Belize. And my friend that I was with in Cuba said, let's do it. And so we actually went and we bought some land that's near a beach on an island called Ambergris Caye, just outside of town of San Pedro. And we went through the whole process. So we talked to the real estate agent that works for RE/MAX. We said, hey, we're interested in buying this. Can we get some type of vendor take back or seller financing on it? Because we were a little bit scared. We didn't want to take on too much risk. So we said, what's a way that we can get into this investment with the least amount of risk? And for us, that would be putting a down payment that was minimal, so that if it wasn't actually, if it wasn't actually real, we might lose that money, but we wouldn't lose the whole amount. So we went through the process. We found a property that they could do seller financing on. My friend and I both partnered on it, and we got all the documentation done. So we signed the DocuSign, we signed the contract. They sent the contract here to Canada. We had our lawyers review it. They notarized it with our passports, sent it back to the closing company in Belize, and they ended up closing on it. And we got it done. And I was like, holy crap. We actually did it. We owned something in Belize. And once we did that, that was what motivated me and pushed me. And it gave me that, that kick to say, if I can do this, why not just find really good deals and become a real estate investor there and understand the market? It's a small island. There's only like 12,000 people that live there. It's like 4 miles wide, 21 miles long, and half of it can never be developed because it's reserve. So it's not a lot of area that you need to become an expert in. And so that's what I did. I spent the next few months doing tons of research on the island. And then I bought the next one on my own, and then the next one on my own, and the next one on my own. And I've kept buying for the last year and a half now.
Pretty cool. And yeah, I love it. It isn't that complex. People probably get a little bit overwhelmed with the complexities maybe of that type of a pursuit. Yet when you break it down like that, 12,000 people, not that big of an area. Like as an example, I'm sure there's tons of other areas that people could go into, and it could be more complex. But it's no different than just getting to know your neighborhood in wherever, in Sarnia or something, right? It's not exactly. It's not that crazy of a pursuit. Like it's an amazing accomplishment, but it is achievable for almost anybody.
It is.
You can put the brakes on anywhere. Like you say, you go down and you start to research and you realize, okay, it's fee simple title. That's great. But now I've got to come up with 100% of the cash, because there's traditional lending is very difficult on something like that. So some people might say, okay, well, I can't come up with 100% of the money, so I guess that's it, right? But it just comes down to looking for those opportunities like that vendor take back you were talking about, and moving forward on it from there, and then being able to do it again, right, and keep on finding those deals. Did you did you have to build? Was it vacant lots?
Yeah, so the first lot that I purchased was a vacant lot, and then the second lot I purchased was a vacant lot. And I was doing all this sight unseen. So I had never been to Belize. I had never been to Ambergris Caye. I was doing it off of Google Maps, basically, right? So I did it all off of Google Maps, and then videos that I relied on, and pictures from the realtors. And yeah, so we bought vacant land, and what ended up happening was, I'll answer the whole build portion, but just to make it clear of like, why would I invest, right? Because when you invest, people will think like, oh, you're buying in a tropical island, like what's the cash flow? What's this? What's that? Like, people want to know what's your ROI on something like this, right? And so just to give you an idea of how I figured out how I would make a return, was the very first property that I purchased was a vendor take back. And I realized that the seller was making really good money on the interest payments. He was charging me 8%, and I was paying that in interest plus the principal and all that. And so what I did was I figured out a plan of purchasing several vacant lots that I would then seller finance, and I would do vendor takebacks on. And so I purchased this first several on my own, all vacant lots, all in the same neighborhood right near Secret Beach, on the island of Ambergris Caye. And after that, I was talking to some of my friends, and some of my other real estate investor friends said, hey, Shawn, can we partner on, another lot if you get a good deal? Because I was getting these for a lot less than what the market value is. So I would say I bought the second one it was again, March of 2020, right during COVID. I offered the guy about 30% of what his ask price was, and he accepted it right away. So that's how I started picking up the deals. And I realized that there was a lot of people here that weren't buying March, April, May, June, July of last year. Nobody was buying. And I bought every single parcel of land that was under a certain price range on the entire island. And that allowed that whole market to actually change. And I increased the value of that whole neighborhood on the island by about 100%. So every single property that I purchased went up over 100% within those 4 months that I bought them. And then I started partnering with people. I started bringing in joint venture partners, and we started buying them together. I opened a corporation with two of my friends, and we purchased some properties together under the corp. And then I JV'd with some other people, and we purchased, additional lots. And right now I'm up to about 17 parcels, I think 18 parcels of land. And we purchased a condo. So we haven't developed on any of those, but we do have a home now. We have a 2-bedroom, 1,500 square foot condo that's on the island that we just closed on this week.
Man, that's incredible. I love this story.
Thanks.
That's definitely called taking action for sure, man. That's so you're gonna sell most of these parcels of land?
They'll be split. So it depends, because some of my partners actually want to actually build down there. So depending on there's two options for either one. One option is either we sell them and we do a vendor take back of like 80% at 10% interest rate. I recently sold the one that I bought in March of last year. I sold that for a 300% profit at a 10% interest rate over 30 years.
Nice. That works.
Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. And then so that's funny. I guess you say that you bought the condo while you were in Canada, but you had seen it.
No, I bought the condo. So the condo that I closed on this week, I bought while I was down there the last 3 months. So I went down there for 3 months. When I got to Belize, I had 7 parcels of land and no condo. And in those 3 months, I purchased 11 additional parcels and a condo.
That is incredible. Well, I'm definitely sure people are going to want to hear more about that from you, and we're going to get your contact info and how people can get in touch with you about that towards the end of the show here, and it'll be in the show notes as well. But that's great. That's great. Okay, look, there's been a lot on mindset, and I think, clearly, even with your story, people are going to be able to tell that the only thing that stands in their way is their self.
Yeah.
But, for practicality's sake, give us your top tips for new investors.
So one of the things that a lot of investors seem to forget is that there is no special secret that somebody is going to teach you that is just going to catapult you to success. So no, you're not going to pay a mentor $5,000, $10,000, $25,000, and he's just going to tell you one thing, and all of a sudden now you're going to become successful and you're going to be a real estate millionaire overnight. The real secret to success is working hard, reading books, listening to podcasts like this where other people have already done things, reaching out to those people that you hear on the podcast, and then not just absorbing the information, but then taking action on the information that they give you. That's really the best tip, is educate yourself, network with other people that are investing, partner with other people that are investing if you need to, but take action on those things that you're learning. There's so many people that I've met over the past 3.5 years that were looking for advice on how to scale their investments, how to go from, one rental property to multiple rental properties. And there's so many people that never took action over those last 3.5 years, and they still have one rental property, right? And then they'll look back in 10, 20, 30 years and they'll be kicking themselves saying, why didn't I take action? But that's the difference between changing your life and living, a normal life, the 9-to-5 grind, where maybe you have a couple investments, right? But there's a lot of people here that, are within our network that we know that have done very well for themselves at a very young age. And those people are taking action constantly. And that's why they are where they are.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. It's in the title of the show, the compounding effect, right? Of little actions over time, it compounds. It's just like interest, right? Inside your money, it compounds, it starts to get massive, and before you know it, those little actions translate into massive results.
Exactly.
And you know what? You say that there's not really any magic bullet or whatever, and I understand what you're saying there, but honestly, those 3 steps that you just gave, that's the key right there. It's just learn, research, do.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Learn about what kind of investing you want to do, research your market where you want to do it, and then go do it. There
Exactly.
you go. That's
the secret. Yeah.
Okay, we're done. We're done here.
What else you got coming down the pipeline? What are you working on now, or what are you working on for the future that's exciting you now? Or are you doing more Belize activity, or what's going on?
Yeah, so it's like, I just got home 3 days ago from this trip, and it's nice to be home. But literally the first thing that I did was I went and I looked at my whiteboard and I started updating it. What have I accomplished this year? I had one of my things on the board was to author a book, right? I wanted to write my own book. And during the time that I was gone in Belize, I found somebody who was willing to do a co-author on a book. And so we finished that. I think it's coming out next month. I don't know what the book title is. I think we haven't fully decided on it, but so I've co-authored my first book that's coming out next month, which is really exciting. I put a plan in place to continue educating myself. Like, the thing is that to become successful and to become a better version of yourself is constant improvement. It doesn't just end one day, right? I love the saying of you're either growing or dying. Right. And so I always want to be growing. I never want to be stagnant, because if I'm stagnant, I'm dying. So I constantly try to improve myself. I'm trying to read more books. So, I'm trying to find new books to read. And I was updating my whiteboard, and I realized that there's so many things that I've accomplished this year that I was proud of myself. Right. So I'm oh my God, I'm so proud of myself. I actually accomplished all of these things. And now I need to write down some new goals of what I'm going to do. So I don't know exactly what we're going to do in Belize. I know with the condo itself, it's going to be an Airbnb, and it does require a little bit of love. So it needs some light fixtures. It needs some new handles. It needs some nice touch-ups and stuff like that. So we are going back in September. So we're going to go back to San Pedro in September. and I'm going to be updating the condo, doing some renovations, and then it's going to go on Airbnb. We're going to start getting some rental income on there. So that's right now for Belize. That's really the only project that we have. The rest of the land, all the land acquisitions, we buy everything in cash. So I only have one that's on a vendor take back. All the other land acquisitions that we've done were purchased in cash. So there's no overhead costs. There's no maintenance. We don't have tenants to deal with. There's really nothing to do. We're just holding on to them. And then eventually we'll either sell or we'll build something on them. So the Belize project's really not too much going on. And then here in Canada, part of my goals is to continue acquiring more buildings. So I'm trying to find duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, or larger. The market is very competitive here in Ontario. The prices are very high and the cap rates are getting compressed. So it's a competitive market. It's hard to pick up really good deals. So I'm continuing to network. I'm trying to, expand my network and connect with more people, maybe where private deals are coming up. And I'm also working as a realtor. So I did get my realtor license in March of this year. And I had a successful first month before I went on vacation. So I did pretty good in the month of March. I think I got top producer for my brokerage. And then I went on vacation. And now I'm back and I'm going to be back at that grind, right? So I'm going through every single multifamily property that's available in the Niagara region, and I do an analysis on them, and then I send them out to my buyers. So I'm a little bit more proactive than reactive. I don't wait until my buyers come to me. I send out the best deals with the best cap rates and ROIs to all of my buyers, and then they handpick those ones off the MLS and put offers on them.
Yeah, I like that. I identify with that too. I mean, I think I like to think anyways that I'm good at finding the deal of the week, let's say, and sending it out instead of waiting for someone to come and say, yeah, I'm ready to buy something. Let's see what we can find.
Yeah.
I love that strategy. Let's talk a little bit about, before we just skip by this, regardless of the deal being a great deal, which it sounds like, you're on the hunt for that good deal and you're able to find them with enough, searching, I guess, enough hands in the pots, but that still requires a decent amount of capital, regardless of whether you get a VTB, which you said only the one has the VTB on it. How are you able? Where does that cash come from?
Yeah. Okay. So 2018, I invested my 2013 when I bought that duplex that I always hacked. No, so. Going back to 2018, the very first BREI project, where I invested all my money, it was $30,000 plus another $15,000 on line of credit, and then like $10,000 on like a credit card. So I had $55,000. I did my BREI project. I got it all back in 45 days. So I had my initial $30,000 back, and then I paid off my lines of credit and credit card. I then rolled that into multiple properties. So 2019, we bought 20 units, something like that, 20 rental units. I bought another 15, 20 rental units in 2020. In total, I think it was about $10 million of real estate that I purchased. I refinanced every single property. That was it.
Okay. So and so when you went and bought again, so you leveraged the lines of credit and credit cards again to buy the next bulk of the units that you bought, those 20 units that you're talking about, and then you were able to refinance them.
Yeah, I actually never used my line of credit or credit card since 2018. So I refinanced the first duplex to pay for the next triplex. I refinanced that triplex to pay for the next fourplex. I refinanced that fourplex to pay for the next fourplex. And then I circled back to the first duplex, refinanced it again to pay for the next duplex. And I just started cycling. I think once I got to about 7 rental properties, I realized that the portfolio grows organically, which means just based on regular 3% mortgage paydown and a 2% appreciation, your portfolio increases in value enough to give you a sufficient down payment to buy another rental property. That's how I calculate it somewhere like that. So after the 7th property, the portfolio grows organically, where based just on debt pay down and very, very minimal appreciation of like 2-3%, which we've seen like 15%, 20%, 22% in the region. And that's why I was able to scale quickly, right? So if anybody's ever read the book Outliers, right? It goes to say that a lot of it is skill, a lot of it is educating, a lot of it is taking action, but sometimes it's being in the right place in the right time. And I started investing in the Niagara region at the right time.
Yeah, there's no doubt that it helps when it goes up 20% versus 2. It just expedites things a little bit, and when we might see a correction, who knows? Probably.
Yeah.
I don't think we will see a big one, but it might see a time where it goes down 1%, and overall, using a 2%, 3% is super safe and conservative, and just off that alone, right? You're up 5+% year over year, just on the pay down and that, and even one property, that's I guess 4 years, you're going to get another 20% there.
Yeah,
you should be able to tap into and be able to use, right?
Yeah, and as your portfolio grows, it becomes a large portion. If your portfolio is $5 million or $10 million in value, an increase of 5% is huge, right? And then not only that, but as your network grows too, right? When you're a new real estate investor, you don't have a lot of friends who are real estate investors. Generally, usually you're going and searching for those people, and as your network expands, all of those other real estate investors are looking where to invest their money. And so that's also how I've been able to grow in Belize, right? Is a lot of my friends, I would say 90% of my network are real estate investors. And because of that, we all connect together and we're able to do investments together, and we're buying stuff in Belize together, and we're buying stuff here in Canada together as well.
Very good.
Awesome.
Very good.
Awesome. Any other advice that you want to give on either real estate or otherwise mindset that you think has really helped you grow over time? I mean, we've talked about a bunch already, but if you could pick really one or two key ones out of that, what would be those biggest pieces of advice?
So I always think of some of my good friends who are not real estate investors, and they're working a 9-to-5 job. They went to university, they have a master's degree or whatever, and they're making decent money, maybe 6 figures, and maybe less, but they're making decent. They're making university degree salaries, right? So they went to university, they got good money coming in, but they don't understand real estate investing or how it works or how to leverage the money or how to calculate returns. And the same thing that I explained to all of them is that the easiest way or the biggest tip or the easiest way to look at this whole picture of real estate investing is take whatever amount of money you make per month, right? Then deduct the taxes on it. So if you're making $6,000 a month or $8,000 a month, then deduct your taxes. What is your take home, your gross? If you can figure out a way to create that much cash flow, positive cash flow from rental income, you've retired yourself. And it sounds crazy that a 30-year-old, I know guys that are 19 and 20 buying rental properties right now, and that's amazing. But let's say you're 30 years old, you've been in the corporate gig for 10 years, for a decade already, and you're trying to figure out how do I get out of working for another 25, 35 years at this job, in the next 5 years. And that's very realistic that you could do that by just buying properties that cash flow. So I like to say to my clients, especially if they're new real estate investors, to only focus on cash flow. Try to get properties that are cash flowing right now. As you start becoming a veteran in investments and you're more seasoned and you have enough cash flow coming in, so you've built up a portfolio of dozens of units or 100 units, and you have enough cash flow to pay for your lifestyle, then you can take away your focus from focusing only on cash flow. And then you can do more plays that are more on equity returns or appreciation returns in the future, right? Like 5-year turnarounds on apartment buildings and stuff like that. But in the beginning, you should be focused just on what is going to increase your monthly cash flow to change your lifestyle, because that job is never guaranteed. Whatever job you work for, it's never guaranteed. You can be replaced instantly.
It's more risky sitting in that, really, in my opinion, than it is going out and starting something like this, like an investment endeavor, or even your own business, perhaps. Right?
And I mean, let's be honest. Most of the time, that job is not going to provide you with the lifestyle that you're looking for, and that you've been able to, work yourself into. So, wow. Thanks for, I'm very, very impressed with, your drive, first of all, and all the success that you've been able to have because of it. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing all of this with us.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you.
Hopefully,
how can people get
hopefully we've inspired a whole bunch of people with it. I think we have. And I was going to serve it up to you anyways, Rob, for that. So
absolutely inspired. I'm going to go and buy some more properties today, I think. Just after that.
Yeah. So
How can
if you
people?
guys, yeah, if you guys want to get in touch with me, easiest way is going to be through Instagram and Facebook. I think most people are on social media. So Instagram or Facebook, it's just Shawn, ShawnRea. It's my first name, last name. If you're not on social media on Instagram or Facebook, you can email me at shawn.rea@gmail.com. If you're also not on social media and you're emailing me, you should probably get on social media, because if you want to expand your network, you need an Instagram and Facebook account to do that. So that's another tip if you don't have one of those.
Yeah. Well, let's say you're a little bit older, you're not really into that kind of thing, but you got lots of money that you want to invest with Shawn. He's still open to the emails.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yeah, I'm sure you'll have some people reaching out to you, because that's super exciting, man. You've done a lot. Sandy, how can people get in touch with you?
Same as always, 289-389-6846 or sandy@mckayrealtynetwork.com.
And people can reach me at rob@mrbreakthrough.ca. Don't forget, all of Shawn's contact info is going to be in the show notes, so you can always get it there if you didn't have a chance to jot it down. I don't even know what else to say. We're done.
Little by little, action, little by little, and just go take action. That's the
compound effect of taking action. Exactly.
Yeah,
that's what we're calling the episode.
Book. Yeah, you should read the book too. If you haven't read The Compound Effect, read it. It's a good book, but it's exactly that. Action, little action every day. You'll get some results.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you all next time.